Shabbat Shalom. Have you heard that there is an organization of knights that came back from the Crusades, and they have used the wealth that they took during the despoiling of the Holy Land to begin to have a cabal of financial control over all of Europe? All of the heads of state of Europe are enmeshed under their control. Have you heard? All right, it may be a little bit outdated, but the Knights Templar were considered to be one of the earliest cabals. That is to say, if you don't count the anti-Semitic blood libels that were used against us even before that, the cabal of the Knights Templar got a great deal of press, for lack of a better word, from the Middle Ages. The idea being that the Knights Templar had used their position as suppliers during the Crusades to enrich themselves as well as to manipulate and control the rest of the European heads of state. And eventually of this, of course, leads to their destruction. Eventually their stronghold is stormed and they are murdered, because they are on the wrong side of the conspiratorial rhetoric of the day. It's a very fascinating story. Look it up. But cabals are not limited to crusading knights. They are not limited to Jewish conspiracy theories. There are cabals of any time. There were times, and even unfortunately to this day, where many have believed that the Masons within the American politics wielded far too much power. If you look at their current enrollment, you probably would wonder how that ever could have been considered a threat. And of course, the more nefarious Illuminati or Star Chamber, cabals seem to multiply in the imagination of people. There's almost something comforting about imagining a secret, shadowy organization that is actually pulling strings, because it certainly seems more comforting than this is just the chaos of the world, and there isn't anyone actually sitting at a steering wheel. But in fact, there isn't anyone sitting at a steering wheel, at least not with a human hand. So where do cabals come from? Well, where does the word cabal come from? Sounds an awful lot like Kabbalah, doesn't it? And indeed, this is ultimately the origin. The Kabbalah became part of Western mythology as a symbol for secret society, of secret wisdom that was being passed one from the other, some form of secret instruction that would give the user, well, power. That if you knew the right incantations, you could invoke power of different angels to give yourself success, to let you triumph over your enemies, to protect yourself from the counter charms of your enemies. Or you could, if you were sufficiently powerful, even tap into the power of the demons and marshal them to your righteous cause. At least this is the way it goes. You can find books written from these periods that have all sorts of intricate incantations, all sorts of intricate symbology and shapes and sigils and other things trying to tell you how to tap into this power. Is that Kabbalah? Well, what is Kabbalah? Because I'll tell you, when people come and talk to me about Judaism, they don't usually ask me so much about what is Torah. They don't normally ask me so much about what is Jewish prayer. They don't even necessarily ask me about kashrut. I think they're afraid of the answer. What they ask is, so what's Kabbalah? What's this Kabbalah stuff? And when I lived on the West Coast, it was even more pervasive. So let's find out. What is Kabbalah in Judaism? Mysticism. Great. Wonderfully broad, giant term. Mysticism. What is mysticism? Pushing the wheel down the road. To be closer to God, to interact with God and be closer to God. I'm pretty sure that's religion. What is the distinction between spirituality and religious life, as would normally be considered a mundane Jewish existence, and mysticism? Why do we need a special term for this? We are called to interact with God, to pray to God, to try and understand God's will through the study of our texts and through the practice of the mitzvot. What is Kabbalah offering? What is it adding? What is it changing from just regular vanilla Judaism? They want a direct line. So Kabbalah is essentially about that direct line. Now, a shortcut is a little pejorative, although perhaps warranted, but it is about wanting a direct line that doesn't require all of the other things, or in some way surpasses the other things. It offers you the promise that if you follow these special instructions that are above and beyond the instructions that are actually in here, as well as within our tradition, that if you follow these special instructions, that you will get special access. You will get the VIP pass, the backstage pass, to visit God after the concert. And then, well, what? What comes then? Right? Okay, so now I understand mysticism is about having an alternative experience of God that in some way supersedes, transcends, transforms me beyond the regular experience that a person would have in a normal religious life. So what? You'll feel wonderful all over, right? It's just, woo, right? It's just going to give you all the good feels. You'll just be vibing to God. And it's like heroin, right? It's just, that's what you want. Really? You can't feel good all over without transcending? Well, why didn't God put that in like the first page of the Torah? If this was going to unlock the ultimate expression of feeling close to God, why not just write, by the way, you can read the rest of this book, but let me tell you about this shortcut to the back door that's going to make you feel even better than everything else here. That's not in the Torah. It's not written on the front page. As mystical as the experience may seem to be, what we just read about in the giving of the Ten Commandments, as amazing as the visions of Isaiah or the other prophets seem to be, that's not held up as the ideal in Judaism. That's not said, this is what you should be seeking, but most of you will just be down here at the bottom of the barrel. That's not how Judaism treats the rank and file. It doesn't say that the best experiences are reserved only for the select few, and the rest of you spiritual peasants will never be able to have that. That's not what Judaism says. So what is Kabbalah offering if it's not the great experience, since that seems to be what Judaism tells us we all should have? What's that? You understand better. But to understand better by going beyond the greatest books of understanding, to say the Talmud is nice, but even though it was a compilation that involved the greatest minds of a few centuries, and even though it is laid out with the most meticulous editing and detail to shape your understanding of Jewish law and Jewish practice and Jewish thought, even though it can reshape your experience of the world, what you really want to do is read a book written in bad Aramaic that was penned by a guy in Spain called the Zohar. That's going to help you understand God, even though it is practically incomprehensible. No offense to the Zohar, it is an amazing book and has some interesting insights, but it is not exactly a book that gives more understanding. It is instead a book that opens up, you can understand it however you feel like, because it does not lay out a clear vision by design. The clearer the vision, the harder it is to ignore. The clearer the vision, the harder it is to transpose my own desires into it and make it what I wish it were to be. There's a reason why Moses, who had the clearest vision of God, wrote the Torah and not the Zohar, or any of the other supposed Kabbalistic works. Because a clear vision of God reveals to you, don't murder. Reveals to you, honor your parents. It doesn't reveal to you that if you hold the Kiddush cup in a particular way, it will unleash the petals of redemption. No, it says honor and keep Shabbat. That is the clear vision of God. That is a powerful connection to God. It is the voice of God screaming through the words of the mitzvot with all the force and might that came through Moses' revelation. But the problem is it's awfully hard to argue with that. It's awfully hard to manipulate that. And we all want to get an edge. We all want to have a little extra something. We want to set ourselves apart. We want to just pull ahead of the other person. As much as we may think that we are not competitive when it comes to our spirituality, our religious communities, we are. We want a little more than the guy next to us. And Kabbalah, mysticism in every faith, offers that temptation. But I want you to think for a moment about some of the claims that Kabbalah and Kabbalists, more importantly, have made. Because true Kabbalah does indeed have some very interesting insights, but true Kabbalah is not what you see peddled day in, day out by most practitioners. What they offer is a red string around your wrist to protect you from Ayin Hara, the evil eye. Because other people will be jealous of you because you're so great. And rather than actually mitigating their jealousy by being a nice, great person, better to stay the jerk you are and wrap a red string around your wrist, and then their rightful resentment can't harm you. This was a big moneymaker for the Kabbalah Center out in Los Angeles. Or you can have water taken from such and such Rebbe's mikveh. The great thing about the mikveh water is no matter how much you add to it, it is never considered to be diluted. So therefore, you can just keep bottling the mikveh water over and over again because at one point in the past decades, some rabbi that was famous happened to bathe in it. Yeah, it's not exactly inspiring to me either. But if you have this water, prosperity, parnassah can be yours. Bracha, blessing can be yours. This is something that will bring you success in all of your business work. But wait a minute. This will bring me success in my business work. So if I donate, if I involve myself, if I say the right words, if I chant the right rabbi's name broken up into different syllables, this is going to unlock the gates of heaven. The righteousness of me doing tzedakah, the dedication of me studying Torah, studying Mishnah, studying Talmud, my performance of the mitzvot, whether it be wearing talit, wearing tefillin, davening, or all of the other commandments, my scrupulousness with making sure that my house and my life remains kosher, that my business remains honest, that won't open up any gates of heaven. But the right chant, the right posture, the right donation, this will do it? If so, what are they actually telling you about themselves? We could give all the people in the world prosperity. We have special incarnations that can bring healing. Indeed, there are Kabbalist charlatans out there that for $10,000 promise to cure your cancer. We could do this for free, but we're going to charge. We could do this for everyone, because after all, is the power of God limited? But we're not going to. Because there has to be a dedication on your part. You have to give until you have shown how passionate you are about this. That is where it comes, because we know that you can't actually learn. We know that you can't actually do the righteous deeds. But you can hurt at least by making a substantial donation to us. And that suffering of money, that will be your penance. That will release the fountains of heaven to bring blessing to you. And yes, these are real ads that are promulgated. And unfortunately, real things that have taken many people not only to the cleaners, but to the morgue, as they seek Kabbalistic healing instead of medical help. This is charlatan. This is fake. This is not what Judaism teaches. The word Kabbalah inspires the idea of some mystical transcendence, but the people who use it most are offering you alternative ways to get to it without the decades of life experience and study that are meant to go with it. And even those who say that you have to study and learn are still holding out that at the end of their 50-part course that only costs $100 per part, that at the end of that course, you will have somehow gained power and might and access to all of the blessings of heaven that the rest of the poor schlubs who didn't sign up for the course don't get. You saw what I saw when we read the Ten Commandments. God didn't say, I am here for some of you. God did not say, I'm here for those of you that are better than the others. God didn't say, I'm here for those of you who signed up for the course. God said, this is the Torah and it belongs to all of you. As I mentioned last night, as I mentioned in the Haftarah introduction, the maidservant at the sea saw more than the prophets of Israel. The least of us have access to God that cannot be bartered away and cannot be enhanced by any additional mystical activities. Yes, for some, mystical contemplation can provide them a sense of peace, but only for those who can't find that sense of peace through the Torah itself. Mysticism and Kabbalah in general is an added benefit to those who are deprived of an easy access to God through the gift of Torah, which was meant to be for all of us. It is triage. It is not meant to be a primary source. Indeed, Kabbalah only became a popular part of our faith and popularized to more people after the crisis of the expulsion from Spain, when people were desperately seeking for a feeling of control over their life, for a feeling that there could be some battlefield on which we were winning, because we certainly weren't winning in this world. And so the mystics of Sfat began to speak more and more and more in abstract terms so that we could turn away from this world and instead focus on our victory on the cosmic stage. And I understand why, if you were living in the 15th century, the 16th century, the 17th century, the 18th, or even the 19th century, you would want to find a victory somewhere other than this world. Because this world was not offering much to the Jews, pretty much anywhere where we were. But in the 21st century, do you think that we can't have the life that God has promised us here? Do you think that we have to hide in a world of cosmic mysteries in order to feel fulfilled? No. God gave us this world. God gave us this Torah about this world. And if it feels too hard, you're not trying hard enough. And if you think there's a shortcut, you are only going to shortchange yourself. And if you think that there is power awaiting for you, you do not realize the power you already have. If you are desperate to find cures, if you are desperate to find help, if you are desperate to find blessings, find them here. They are all around you. Be that for someone else. We have the capabilities within our grasp. And if we chase after visions and dreams, often of which are simply exploited by those who lie and deceive, then you will never be able to encounter the truth. The truth exists clearly and plainly before us. Do not turn away for promises that sound more seductive than that. God has given us freely everything we need. It's up to us to simply say thank you and to embrace it. Shabbat Shalom.